November 13, 2025. The Caribbean Sea was deceptively calm, but inside the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower's Combat Information Center, tension simmered. Petty Officer Miller, radar tech, stared at a persistent, fast-moving blip, an unidentified contact heading straight for the carrier group. He ran diagnostics. No glitch, not birds, not weather, something small, fast, and aggressive. Miller keyed his mic. Bridge, CIC, unknown surface contact, bearing 190, range 40 nautical miles, speed 35 knots. Designate Skunk Alpha. The bridge acknowledged, but everyone in the CIC knew what this could mean in contested waters. The Eisenhower was the heart of Carrier Strike Group 2, flanked by cruisers, Vicksburg, and San Jacinto, destroyers, Nitsa and Truxtun, and the submarine Boise lurking below. Rear Admiral Harrison, a veteran, listened to the report, eyes on the horizon. Smuggler, fisherman, or something worse? Venezuela had been protesting the U.S. presence for weeks. Harrison ordered the strike group to higher readiness. On deck, FA-18s were prepped. Below, damage control teams took stations. The giant was stirring, senses sharpening for a threat it couldn't yet see. The world outside was blue and bright, but inside, the Eisenhower braced for the unknown. The ghost on the scope had everyone's attention. The routine exercise was over. The first move had been made. The game was on. Aboard the Venezuelan patrol boat Guaycari, confidence ran high. Capitan Ortega's orders: locate, challenge, and escort the lone American warship from Venezuela's claimed waters. Intelligence said it was a single destroyer, an opportunity to show resolve. Guaycari, fast and armed, wasn't alone. Yacuana and Cariña closed in from other angles. Their plan: surround, cut off, and force the American to change course, a show of force for the world. Ortega scanned the horizon. Nothing yet, but the American ship's signals were clear. The U.S. vessel kept steady, seemingly oblivious. Ortega saw arrogance. Today, he'd make a stand. The flotilla closed in, radar signatures low, crews at battle stations. On the Guaycari, sailors manned the gun. Technicians tracked the target. They believed in their mission, ready to defend their homeland. The trap was set. The moment of contact was near. As the Venezuelan boats crossed the 20-mile line, Ortega's radar lit up with new contacts. The lone destroyer was surrounded, cruisers, destroyers, and at the center, a supercarrier. The hunters had become the prey. Shock swept the Guaycari's bridge. The odds had shifted from bold to hopeless. On the Eisenhower, Admiral Harrison watched the tactical plot. The trap was sprung. "They've seen us," came the report. The Venezuelan boats slowed, vectors erratic. Harrison raised the alert. He wanted no war, but would not allow a threat. FA-18s launched, circling above the patrol boats, streaming live video to the flag bridge. The images confirmed it. 3 small boats, crews staring up at American jets. For Ortega, the sight of fighters overhead ended any illusion of control. His flotilla was outmatched, outgunned, and now under the watchful eyes of both radar and aircraft. The sense of being the hunter vanished. Now, they were simply targets. The American fleet had revealed its true strength. The Venezuelans were trapped. The balance of power was unmistakable. The radio crackled on Guaycari's bridge. "Venezuelan naval vessels, this is United States Navy warship. Alter course immediately to 180 and depart the area." The message repeated in Spanish. Silence followed. Ortega hesitated. Retreat meant humiliation, but pressing on meant destruction. He bluffed. "American warship, you are in our sovereign economic zone. You must alter course." The Americans answered with action, not words. USS Nitsa's gun swiveled, locking onto Guaycari. Fire control radars painted the ship. Alarms shrieked. Then thunder. USS Truxtun fired a warning shot, the shell splashing 1,000 yards ahead. The explosion's boom rolled over the water, a clear message. Next time, it's real. Panic rippled through the Venezuelan crews. Training faltered in the face of overwhelming force. Ortega saw fear in his men's eyes. His flotilla was bracketed, targeted from all sides. The Americans had them in a crossfire, jets circling above, missile systems ready. Every system screamed warnings. The standoff teetered on the edge of open combat. The time for posturing was over. Ortega's options were vanishing. The next move would decide everything. The sea was silent, but the threat was deafening. One wrong move and annihilation would follow. The world held its breath. On the Eisenhower, Admiral Harrison watched as the Venezuelan boats stopped but didn't turn away. "Viper 1, what's their posture?" he asked. "Confused, sir. Main gun still trained our way. No missile launch, but their radar's active." This was the most dangerous moment. A single mistake could trigger disaster. On USS Nitsa, the weapons officer had a firing solution, one order, and the Guaycurí would be gone. Harrison weighed his options. Rules of engagement allowed him to fire, but the consequences would be catastrophic. Sinking the boats would spark a political firestorm. He chose restraint. "All stations, this is flag. Weapons hold. Do not fire unless fired upon." Across 5 warships, a silent sigh of relief. The finger on the trigger relaxed. Harrison had given his opponent a way out. Now it was up to Ortega. The fate of everyone in those waters hung on a single decision. The standoff was at its breaking point. The world watched. Unseen. One move would end it. Harrison gambled on restraint. The next act was Ortega's. The ocean waited. On Guaycurrí's bridge, Ortega faced the truth. Press on and die, or retreat and live. Pride and orders meant nothing now. Only his crew's survival mattered. The Americans had given him a chance. Swallowing his pride, Ortega ordered, "All engines back full. New course 180. The Guaycurrí turned south, followed by the other patrol boats. No surrender, no white flag, just a slow, humiliating retreat. The standoff ended. The American fleet stayed ready. Radars locked, jets circling, guns manned. Only when the Venezuelans were 10 miles away did Harrison stand down. "They're running," came the report. "Range now 15 miles and opening." "Let them go," Harrison said quietly. The Venezuelans returned to port in silence. Bravado gone. Ortega knew his career was over, but he had saved his men. The hunters had become the hunted, and survived. The lesson was bitter, but clear. The sea had shown no mercy, only hard choices. Within hours, the incident exploded in the media. Venezuela claimed victory, hailing Ortega as a hero who turned back the U.S. Armada. State TV showed triumphant footage, patriotic music blaring. Caracas declared a national win, praising its Navy's bravery. The Pentagon's response was brief and factual. A lawful patrol, a brief, unprofessional encounter, and U.S. restraint. No video, few details. Washington let the story fade. The world saw 2 narratives. Latin America cheered Venezuela. The West called it posturing. Online, analysts debated the facts, but the truth was lost in propaganda. Both sides claimed victory, but the real battle was fought with press releases. At sea, the Eisenhower stayed on station, mission unchanged. Ortega was quietly reassigned, his hero status fleeting. The war of words raged, but the facts were clear. One side remained, the other fled. The standoff was more than ships and guns. It was a battle of electronic warfare. The Eisenhower's Aegis system detected the Venezuelans long before visual contact, building a complete tactical picture. This information edge was decisive. The Venezuelans, with less sophisticated gear, misread the situation, believing they faced a lone destroyer. That intelligence failure lured them into a trap. The escalation was a conversation in radar. American fire control locks triggered alarms on Guaycurrí, signaling imminent danger. The psychological impact was immense. Panic replaced bravado. The Americans held fire, trusting their sensors. The Venezuelans retreated, overwhelmed by warnings. The real battle was won in the electromagnetic spectrum, long before a shot was fired. Technology shaped every decision. The unseen war decided the outcome. The Caribbean standoff was a crisis born of misunderstanding, not malice. Venezuelan boats, acting on faulty intelligence, believed they faced a lone ship. The U.S. prepared for a possible attack. Rational actions on both sides brought them to the brink of war. The incident showed how perception becomes reality, and how deadly that can be. Commanders face split-second choices with incomplete information. A different decision could have sparked a regional conflict. The day was saved by professionalism and restraint. The warning shot was a violent but clear off-ramp from disaster. Giving an adversary a way out can mean the difference between standoff and tragedy. For those present, it was a terrifying lesson in how close peace and war truly are. The greatest victory was simply sailing away to see another dawn. The calm Caribbean hid dangerous currents. Sometimes, survival is the only triumph.